All right, Ramblers, I'm back with another review. I not too long ago just got out of the theater for this fan premiere preview event for the new Masters of the Universe movie, the new He-Man film that came out. And I had a little moment after making a few phone calls and recounting it to certain closer people with me. Had enough time, a moment to recollect it. I don't know if it was a benefit of me just seeing it in Dolby in the theater with a bunch of fans for this early screening event. A lot of people were enjoying it, and so with them, I was able to enjoy it. However, this movie, I would wager to guess that if people who are true blue, fans of the original like toy line and the cartoon and all that, might not enjoy this one because this movie was quite campy and probably a little funnier than it should be. Now, if you don't mind that, if you liked like something like Thor Ragnarok and like Flash Gordon, this is more that style. It doesn't take itself terribly too seriously, and that's probably to the detriment of itself, but it's still all in good fun. But lately, that's, if you feel like that's been overdone in a lot of movies, which some people feel like it, I do, it was enough for me to notice, but I didn't hold it too against it because I was just along for the ride. Then you might not like it. But if you're like me and you can put that to the back of your head, you can find yourself enjoying it, especially in a theater full of people who, having a good time. It's a great time. It's good fun. The plot pretty much plays out with all the action sequences and stuff and the way the characters fight and all that. It plays out pretty much like as if like little kids playing with the action figures, which is pretty much, what I would personally come to expect with it. I went to this movie with not terribly high expectations or with too much familiarity with the original property, hence why I could probably, enjoy it as much as I did. Like I said, there was a lot of jokes, a lot of humor. Kind of marvelized. I don't know. It fit the vibe of this movie. Again, I'm going into it without context, but there were some moments that were punctuated with humor that didn't need to. It would have landed a little bit better had they let these serious or epic moments breathe a little bit. You know what I mean? But the cast was great. I will say that it wasn't terribly much of a. I personally didn't think it was a bait and switch, but other people with keener eyes than I might think it is a bait and switch. Hence why I would expect some people not enjoy it as much as I did. But the cast was having a lot of fun. Whoever was a standout role for me was actually Jared Leto's Skeletor. He chewed up the scenery in every moment of it. Looked like he was having a lot of fun. I'm not sure how much of his performance was augmented by the CGI or the voice work, or how much of it was him. But if it really was all Jared Leto, then he absolutely knew this assignment. It's like a campier version of like Palpatine at the end of Revenge of the Sith. You know how like he was just enjoying being a bad guy? That's how Skeletor was in this movie. He's pretty much like a classic Saturday morning cartoon villain, you know what I mean, from the old school. So like, yeah, Leto knew the assignment and he nailed it in that regard. And visually speaking too, he looked great. That was like a really good live action adaptation of the character itself. Terrible with names and all that stuff. But the main character, he was pretty good for the arc that they gave He-Man. However, I would have preferred him to be less, less self-doubtful and more so just willing to step up. And he does go through a little bit of an arc, but they lay on a little too much the modern day isms with the humor and the fact that when the movie opens up and he's on Earth and he's already an adult and stuff, he works at HR, so he's got that sort of new wokey sort of corporate attitudes or philosophies ingrained into him, despite the fact that the situation and the story calls for him being a conventional like He-Man hero. Visuals were great. The set design and the visual aspects of Eternia looked great. It looked pretty cool. I mean, again, it reminded me of Thor and stuff like that, which I guess Thor got it from, the He-Man stories and stuff. But yeah, I would say, I liked it. Whether or not I would recommend to go see it in the theater, depends on what you're looking for in a movie. If you don't like, if you don't like what I was explaining or what I was hinting at, without getting too deep into spoilers, you might be a little upset about this movie, to be completely honest. But if you're like me, and you can check that stuff, let yourself have a good time, we're checking out. I got a cool poster. Not sure if I'd drop the money to get the sword drink bottle with the gray skull popcorn bucket, but you know, that is pretty cool. That's personally, I prefer that sword over the Helm Hammerhand thing for the Rohirrim film that came out last year. But I'm trying to think what other aspects of the movie that I did notice. A lot of references to some of the memes and stuff, but not something terribly distracting. So they did a different sort of interpretation of the character. So he's not as like eager to be the hero. He's far more reluctant of a hero than I was expecting him to be, and he stays in that pocket, but he ends up completing his arc later. But yeah, I'd say it's probably like closer to Ragnarok, or like a bigger budget, more polished version of like Flash Gordon. If you just like that, if you don't give a shit about how corny or how heavy on the cheese it is, and you can enjoy it. You know, it's kind of like a fun flick. But there you go. I think I've ran out of all my talking points for this one. But you know, it's a little milquetoast of a review. But yeah, my points still stand from the very beginning of the video. If you are tired of the modern day tropes of not willing to willing for the stories to be as sincere as they are, to let the moments stick, then you're not gonna like this one. But if you don't mind that for a good, silly, fun action movie that plays out like a Saturday morning cartoon, then you'll like it. So that's my interpretation. Take that as you will. That's my review of it. That's my summary of the movie. Trying to keep as spoiler free as possible. Not that there's much to spoil, but you know what I mean. It's He-Man. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for my review. It's getting kind of late, so I gotta run home. But I'll catch you later on the next video. See ya.